you know as well as I do, and look at Fortrose and Rosemarkie or any other links course that's a proper links course. You can hit a ball in the middle of the fairway and it'll hit and it'll bounce 40 yards to the right, and you'll end up being under a little patch of gorse or in some bit of heather, or you'll catch a slope and run into a pot bunker that you need to play backwards out of. And actually, that's really good because it teaches you that sometimes you can hit the greatest shot and not get the greatest result. Sometimes it teaches you that life's just not fair. Sometimes it teaches you that like the bounces go against you even when you think they should go for you. And I think this is a reflection of maybe like a bigger issue in people's mindsets. But I think what a great lesson to learn growing up and playing golf, rather than just expecting, if I do this, this should happen, as if life is some sort of formula. I think golf reflects a lot of people's mindsets where randomness just makes it. And if you can learn how to embrace it and roll with it and overcome it, like when you walk off the golf course, you actually feel like you've accomplished something rather than like you've just done sort of mathematical equation.
We have Jasper Miners with us today. Very grateful that you agreed to come on the Top 100. It's a show that we've been looking to put together for quite some time. So thank you for being so gracious to give us your time, Jasper.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is one that I've been looking forward to, and I've been wanting to get you guys on for a while. Firstly, I want to know, how do you get such a cool job? How do you get into the ranking golf courses business, essentially?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. And to be brutally honest, like I was never after it. So David Davis, who is the kind of the CEO of the company, and he heads up Lockhart Travel Club, which is kind of an elite world golf travel club. I've known David for quite a while. I think with the advent of social media, a lot of like-minded people found each other just because of the ease of social media, especially at the time. So I've known David for quite a while. I was between projects just with regards to work, and David called me up and said, look, we're making some changes at Top 100. We want to kind of relook at what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. And would you be interested in it? And for me, my background, I've done a little bit of change management consulting, and it was like a change management consulting job, but working for a golf company. So it seemed like a natural fit. And you guys understand usually how it works is that it's kind of hard to get started in golf. There's like the traditional way where you can go to school or you can play your way into some sort of a career. If you're not really good and you're not playing in front of thousands of people for millions of pounds, then you're probably selling like polo shirts or chocolate bars in a pro shop somewhere. Absolutely. Or managing a club of some description. Yeah. And then outside of that, unless you really get involved with club fitting or teaching, you kind of have to find or make your own way. And I think that's, for me, the last, say, 10 years, it's been being incredibly passionate, being authentic, trying to do things for the right reasons, the right ways, being gracious. And I think golf is kind of a space where if you try to do that, usually it'll come back to you. And the golf community is a pretty impressive place, full of lots of good guys. And I've got lots of great friends and lots of great acquaintances and a really good black book, basically down to showing those qualities and characteristics. So I think in a nutshell, that's probably what got me where I am, which is, I don't take it for granted. It's a pretty privileged opportunity, and one that I enjoy tremendously.
And how often are you playing golf?
Probably not as much as what everybody thinks. So I do like to be a good member of my own golf club. So when I'm at home, I try and play once a week, and that's usually a Sunday morning. That's kind of my time. So I play usually 9 holes of hickories and then 9 holes of persimmons and blades, just classic golf. And so that's once a week, and it usually takes about 2 hours for me to play 18, which is why I love my golf club. So I'm out really early, and home quite early, but I've got my 18 in before my partner's kind of up and around and ready for the day. When it comes to work, though, I would say it goes in spurts. So I might be gone for 3 or 4 days, but I'll pack in 5 courses.
Right.
And then I might be at home for like a week. And then I'll be gone again for 3 or 4 days and pack in 5 or 6 more. So I think I'm probably at 40 new courses this year. So if you average it out, maybe once or twice a week I'm out at the very most, but usually it's a week on, a week off. So yeah, I'm a bit frenetic. So, but I guess on the grand scheme of things, that's not bad going.
That's the plan. So yeah.
So on the grand scheme of things, it's still a lot of golf, probably, more than the average for someone of my age. So,
And what are you playing off?
that's the thing. I don't really know. I mean, if I'm playing in a match, I'll usually just say, let's play like straight up just a scratch match. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, if they're maybe like a double-digit handicap, then I'll give them 5 shots or whatever. But if it's someone who's off scratch, then I'll just say, look, I know I'll probably lose the match, but let's just play scratch. So I'm single digits somewhere. But I also understand that I carry a 3, 5, and 7, 3, 5, 7, and 9 irons. I carry a 1 and 4 persimmon wood putter, and my lowest lofted wedge is a 54. So I'm a bit old school like that, traditional lofts, but it's just the type of golf that I really enjoy playing. It's not necessarily pencil and card golf. If I'm playing by myself, I don't really care about score. And if I'm playing with others, I'd rather play 2 balls, so like foursomes, or play a match, just a match play scenarios. Yeah, I don't really, probably one of the odd ones that I don't really keep a handicap, but I'm quite happy to play straight up with most people.
So what made you take? Sorry, I can't get my words out again. This happened to me last week. What gave you the? I still don't even know what I'm saying here. I've completely gone blank here.
No, that's fine.
But why did you go into having hickory clubs and persimmon woods and stuff?
Yeah, so it's not that golf is too easy. Like even with 14 clubs and all of the modern gear, I think what ended up happening, well, there's 2 things. So I think one time it was actually my wife, like in the boot of the car, I had like a Sun Mountain H2NO bag with like a hood. I had this umbrella. I had like a 4-wheel cart. I had a yardage finder. And then and my wife just said, why do you need all of that just to play a game? Like you're literally hitting a ball around a field with a stick. And I'm like, yeah, actually. And then when I was a kid, I remember like I had so much fun as a kid, and I had a 1 wood, a 5 wood, 5, 7, 9 iron, and a putter. That's all I had. And I had an old blue, it was 2-tone blue, light blue and dark blue Jones bag with a single strap, 1 pocket. So I had maybe 3 or 6 balls, a handful of tees, and that was it. And it didn't matter what happened. Like when I was a lad, I would be out playing golf, rain or shine. It didn't matter. And I was happier than Larry to do it. And I just kind of thought back and I thought, when was I happiest playing golf? And when did I have the most joy doing it? And it was back when I was a kid. So one day I just thought, well, I'm going to lose. I think I went to 10 clubs and then I went to 7 clubs. And that was the first bit of it. And then it was kind of stupid pushing around a cart with a big bag on it with 7 clubs. So then I bought a single strap bag, and then it was like, well, I can't carry an umbrella now. So, and it was just like this, it got to the point where you were almost like, what else can I lose in order to like make this the lightest bag possible so I can walk the fastest, play the fastest. And I think that's the thing with persimmon golf, like with persimmon, I mean, I can hit my driver in the air, 230 to 240 is probably in the air, but the trajectory that it's at, if you're playing firm and fast conditions, it'll run out to 280, 290 without much bother. So, it was interesting. I was with one of the guys we work with, Joe, who's a former NCAA D1 kind of golfer, and the guy just absolutely stripes it. He's a flusher. And we were at North Berwick, and we were playing with James, who does our podcast. And James was hitting his hickory driver and it was rolling out to like 320. I was hitting my persimmons and it was going till like 290, 300. And then we've got Joe with like all his new gear and he's hitting it like 210 into the wind. But it was all because he could only hit it 120 feet in the air, because that's the shot you have when you play new gear with new,
Yeah.
And so when you can, for me, that's part of the thrill of golf is especially on good golf courses. So I'm thinking like one at Worlington. You got 2 bunkers on the left. And you've got to place your ball. I don't have enough to get past the second bunker. So you've got to place your shot just past the first one or just in front of the second one. Where if I was playing modern golf, you would just blow straight over both of them and not even think about it. And I just think that there's so many good golf courses that are so much better when you don't have like a 290 carry club in the bag.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you've never peered a persimmon, or you've never struck like, I play Mira baby blades at the minute, and they do look intimidating, but the sweet spot on most golf clubs is roughly the same size. Like it's just in the middle of the face. So if you can somehow get it close to that, you'll probably be okay. But if you can peer like a blade or a persimmon, 3 or 4 times out of 10, and the rest of those 3 or 4 other times are average, and maybe you have 1 or 2 bad ones, the joy that you'll get out of peering those shots in a round of golf is like so much better than playing soulless golf that, you can hit it anywhere in the face and it still goes 260 and you don't really know. You're just like, well, it's a terrible strike, but it still is somewhere in the fairway. That type of golf just doesn't interest me. And maybe it's because I'm just not bothered about my score or my handicap. I don't know. But I just get a lot more fun. There's a lot more fun and a lot more joy. In my experience from those things.
So I take it that you love old courses, traditional courses, links courses. Would that be your fair assumption?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reason for it is not just, sometimes I get labeled like that, like, oh, it's old, so you must love it. And you're like, no, that's not the reason why I love it. It's just, if you play old courses, chances are there's not been a lot of earth moving. They fit in the landscape. They've been draped on a landscape. It's sort of like a tablecloth. Imagine setting the table and then putting the tablecloth over top of the settings. It's like, as opposed to just taking a bulldozer and just making it flap. So I think old golf courses, because they didn't have the technology, probably lay on the land or sit on the land a lot better. It feels like it's a lot more. The reason why I'm outside is because I don't want to be inside. And then you get to like an environment that's completely man-made and it feels artificial. If I want to do that, I'll just stay inside and play on a simulator. If everything is like, perfectly bricked up and there's an island green and there's like, railway tie sleepers everywhere that kind of are containing everything, that's fine and that's good. And it's fun to play if you have enough beer and good company and the weather's okay. But it just doesn't do. I'd rather play on a simulator, right. To be honest, because the chances are like the turf is going to be soft. You're probably going to have flat lies everywhere, anyways. And again, I don't see much difference. Why would I go through all of that effort to go and play a golf course when And the other thing too is I think with the older courses, it's usually a reflection of the time. The space that they find themselves in. So, for example, like if I go to Sweden and I play a golf course that, say, Nicholas built, well, I can go to a Nicholas golf course in Canada, the States, Mexico, in probably 30 countries around the world, and I'll have exactly the same experience everywhere I go. It is the McDonald's of golf. And if you love McDonald's, that's great. And there's nothing wrong with loving McDonald's. And if you like Big Macs in America, you're going to love them in Britain just the same. Yes. And so that's cool. That I just would rather not have Big Macs. I just want to, and that's what I think is exciting about golf travel. When I go to Melbourne, and you play Royal Melbourne West and East, it's a completely different experience because you can't really get that type of golf anywhere else. But if I go and play like a Nicholas or a Palmer or a Gary Player design there, well, yeah, it feels the same. So it's like a chain restaurant as opposed to a boutique kind of like farm to plate type restaurant experience. Don't know if I've explained that well, but I think that's maybe where I come from.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because my favorite type of courses are links, but also heathland. Mm-hmm. And I mean, a good example of the bit of both was I was at Isle of Purbeck not too long ago, and it was like someone had taken Walton Heath and put it on the coast.
Yep.
And it had that heathland field, but it had the stunning views of the ocean and everything. It was so peaceful, but it also felt like someone had carved this course around the countryside, not demolished it and just put a flat course in.
Well, and I think you're onto something there. So, you talk about what makes golf good. And usually, I mean, it was interesting. Last year at the BMW Championship, I got to ask Rory that question, what is special about heathland golf? And he basically said, if it's done right, it's links golf, but prettier. And that's in essence. So then you have to step back and ask yourself, well, why is heathland golf, if it's proper heathland golf, and links golf, why are those the two purest forms of golf that tend to rise to the highest levels of golf rankings? And it's firmness of turf. It is true turf. So putting on fescues and bents is usually better than POAs. Not necessarily because they're as fast, but because if you hit a putt, you expect it to hold its line. You can usually play the ground game, so it's not just an aerial game. So it's not just like throwing darts or trying to hit numbers. Like you can actually think, well, I'm going to use that contour to try and hit this shot to try. So if I shape it left to right and hit a high shot, how does that come off that bank? If I want to feed it in from 240, but I've only got a 3-iron, and I've got to go under some trees. Well, again, if you have the ground game, you can figure all of that out, as opposed to just bunting it back into the fairway and then hitting a 7-iron. And I think when you look at the commonalities between the best golf, and I think you've named them, links and heathland, it's firmness of turf, it's turf quality. Usually on both courses, links and heathland, there's half par penalties. What I mean by that is if you go into the heather and it's been well maintained, you either don't advance your ball, you either get lucky and it has no effect, or it's somewhere in between. But it's a brilliant hazard. And you get a lot of that with like thin, wispy rough, even on links, is that you can go into it, you can find your ball relatively quickly, and it's a bit of a crapshoot. Like it's either a full shot penalty, it's not a penalty, or it's somewhere in between, but you can still advance your ball to some extent. And so you add up all of those things and you're like, well, if everybody loves heathland golf and links golf, what are the commonalities between why? And I think that's where you start to get the recipe for what makes good golf.
Yeah, for sure.
Go on, Chris.
One course I think has done very well with it essentially being quite a new course, but they've managed to put it somewhere and make it feel like it's been there 100 years is Dumbarnie Links. It's just, you walk in, you think, oh yeah, this has been here forever. And the fact it's very old is stunning.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing too. So like Dumbarnie, I've always said it's like I would call it like a gateway links. And what I mean by that, to borrow the expression, not that I'm a drug user, but you usually start off with like, people start smoking or, and then they advance, you usually don't start with class A right at the beginning. There's usually a progression. And I think if you get, it's sort of like Americans that will fly into Edinburgh and they step off the plane and they drive 2 hours, they get to the old course, step out from their transfer van and they play the old course and they walk off and they think, I don't get it. Like, really? This is like supposed to be one of the greatest golf courses in the world. And that was it. And you're like, yeah. And that's because if you've only played American parklands your whole life, it's so different that you probably won't understand it. And I think Dumbarnie does a really good job of like, again, it's that gateway approach where if you brought someone to Anstruther or to like Ely, for example, it's quirky, it's bold, it's like greens run away from you as opposed to being tilted up towards you. There's blind shots. And a lot of people would just be like, that's just way too weird for me. Like, I just don't get it. But Dumbarnie does a really good job of like bridging that gap. And I think it's probably the perfect course to start with. Like if you're an American coming in and you've never played links golf before, Dumbarnie would be like the ultimate place to start your trip. Because I think if you do, it allows you that stepping stone. And it's an interesting property. I mean, it was a field. So to manufacture something like that, I mean, Kings Barnes is another good example. The Castle course is another good example. Castle Stewart is another good example. There's lots of golf courses that have been completely manufactured. But yeah, it's a great example of hitting the mark and being like hitting the bullseye, being designed for exactly what it was meant to be, which is get Americans in, get them through, introduce them to links golf, and then let them go and see what the rest of Fife has to offer. Yeah. Fan of Dumbarnie.
We mentioned before we started recording about a Scottish trip I had recently, and I've been a number of times to Scotland, but I've never focused on courses. Having started the podcast with Chris, I wanted to make sure I at least got to view some of the courses. And two that stood out to me, and there are countless, and this podcast isn't in essence going to be a review of all the different courses because it would just take too long, but I popped my head around the corner to Fort Rose and Rosemarkie. I don't know if you've had a chance to play there. One of, if not, well, one of the oldest courses in the world, I believe, 1793 from memory. But when we went for a walk up to Channery Point towards sunset to watch the dolphins play, as we came back and the sun was going down, even my wife said, a golf course is normally like that. And I said, what do you mean? She said, the bumps and the humps all along the fairway as we're walking back towards the campsite were just popping as the sun hit and went low. And I said, no, they're not all like that, but look at how beautiful that is. And that is literally nature with a flag at the end, in essence. And it was unbelievable. And the other one was Royal Prestwick, where the original Open started. Something timeless about these courses, which is you just can't recreate.
Well, and I think, so you look at that. Fort Rose and Rosemarkie, is amazing. 1702, I think. One of the, I think, fourth oldest, something like that. Anyways, but yeah, you're right. When you've got landscape and ground conditions that are completely random, I think that to me is like, that's what really sums up the essence of golf. And now I grew up in Canada playing like average municipal golf in rural Saskatchewan on when we first started what was like sand greens that were mixed with oil, completely flat. And then you're kind of told that the best golf courses are like Nicklaus designs. And nothing against Nicklaus, and I don't want it to appear or sound like I'm having a pop. I'm not. But there is a way that most new build golf courses are designed and built, and that is basically just to plow, like wherever you find them, just make it work. And I think it's, when you have a golf course, it also influences golf culture. So I'll give you an example of this. I can use two. So so how important golf course architecture actually is. So if I play on a golf course that has a traditional setup of like a runway tee, and I've got a straight hole, and then on either side of it, I've got a 40 or 50 yard wide fairway with bunkers left and right. And then I've got a couple of strips or more widths of grass, and then I've got trees. And then at the end of that 450 yard opening hole, I've got a green that's flanked left and right on a bunker, and I've got a green that's tilted towards me. The only questions that I'm being asked is, can I hit two straight shots? And if I hit a shot that's slightly left or right, there's going to be a penalty that is penalized to the extent that I missed. And what ends up happening is that you get an individual who splits the fairway. And when it's like this binary question of good or bad, black or white, middle or not, if I am in the middle of the fairway, I demand to have a flat stance.
Yeah.
I need to be able to see my target, and it has to be off a great lie. And unfortunately, that also lends itself towards, well, I hit two good shots and I should be able to two-putt every green. That should be a guaranteed par. And then when it's not, then somehow that's a deficiency of the golf course and not me as a golfer. And this idea of what golf should be, I think, is directly related to the type of golf courses that we put a lot of people on, especially stateside and in Canada. But as well as I do, and look at Fort Rose and Rosemarkie or any other links course that's a proper links course. You can hit a ball in the middle of the fairway and it'll hit and it'll bounce 40 yards to the right, and you'll end up being under a little patch of gorse or in some bit of heather, or you'll catch a slope and run into a pot bunker that you need to play backwards out of. And actually, that's really good, because what does it teach you? Well, it teaches you that sometimes you can hit the greatest shot and not get the greatest result. Sometimes it teaches you that life's just not fair. Sometimes it teaches you that like the bounces go against you even when you think they should go for you. And I think this is a reflection of maybe like a bigger issue in people's mindsets. But I think what a great lesson to learn growing up and playing golf. Rather than just expecting, if I do this, this should happen, as if life is some sort of formula. I think golf reflects a lot of people's mindsets where randomness just makes it. And if you can learn how to embrace it and roll with it and overcome it, like when you walk off the golf course, you actually feel like you've accomplished something rather than like you've just done sort of mathematical equation. And I think that's why for me, like links golf and proper heathland golf is so good, going back to what we spoke of before.
Yeah, I mean, we've been to course, we played Centurion not too long ago. And I turned to the guys, the starters, and I said, "Can I play off the back?" They said, "If you want to." I said, "I want to be kicked in the teeth today by this course." I said, "Then I'll know if I like it or not."
Yeah.
Because if I don't want to just play essentially pitch and putt. I don't want to hit a shot forward, then hit another shot, 2-putt, and leave. I want to work hard for the pars and for the birdies and be rewarded.
And there is like, I mean, that style of golf and that type of golf, and that's where I think like Centurions are probably a good example. I've had the privilege to play Centurion quite a few times. I had a really good mate who used to have a corporate membership there, so I got to go a couple times a year. And enjoyable day. Like the whiskey in the locker rooms in your own little beautiful touches, and great food, and this like amazing clubhouse with great views, pond, green, 18th green, lovely stuff. Absolutely brilliant day out. And if you had a corporate, if you had a corporate membership, there's probably not a better club where you could be in that part of the world. And within easy reach of London. So yeah, brilliant place to go and play golf, especially if it's entertaining clients. But that's the thing. If you want that, where it is a examination of your game, brilliant course to do it on. And then we go back to the same old thing. Like, other than carding a score, I've got to the point in my personal golf journey where it's like, well, I don't know if I've got that shot, but I do want to play a high fade with a 7-iron. And then I want to try and hook a 5-iron. And I want to try and peel something off a bunker that's out at 210. And chances are, like 6 times out of 10, I won't be able to do it. But it's that type of experience that gets me excited now. Yeah, so it's just a different way to enjoy golf. And you're right, there probably is types of golf that are like, there's probably a reason why. I mean, Bethpage will be an interesting watch for the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
But like you say, there's a reason why, a course like St. Melian is probably another example that's similar to Centurion. Like if you want to go and just get absolutely hammered and see how good of a golfer you are, good place to go. And that's one way to enjoy the game. So if you're a bit of a sadomasochist, I guess, at times.
Yeah. Do each of the staff involved in the ratings bring your own personal touch to the ratings? Is it a combined system, or are you tasked to go and give your view based upon something that's touched you in your experience?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, you can't remove subjectivity from a ranking. That's just inherent to it. You're asking like humans, which by nature are very messy. Humans are just chaotic at the best of times, and a lot of times nonsensical and not logical. Because golf is an emotive thing. Oftentimes you can play golf and you played well, or the weather's amazing, and that will tinge and taint how you view things. So we do issue guidance, and all of this is publicly available on the website. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the website, you see the footer, and on the footer, there's a few things there. I think it's ranking guidance. Yeah. So we kind of have 5 things that we so architecture, strategy, variety, consistency, and then golf course and land management. Those things are not exhaustive, but what we're trying to do is say, look, these are the things that we think are important. These are the types of things that we should be looking at. And for our ranking, this is what it should hinge on. So we don't do things like, Centurion. You have a brilliant clubhouse with like your own whiskey in a locker in the lock. That is a brilliant touch. That's a really cool thing, but it wouldn't influence our ranking. So we start from the first tee and we go to the 18th green. all the peripheries, amenities, extra touches that you kind of get put on golf experiences. Those don't factor in.
The playing experience.
Mm.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that's a good thing, because just because a course is Centurion, or Queenwood, for example, or Beaverbrook,
some heavy hitters right there.
Yeah. So I mean, most people will never see those courses. Most people will never get behind those gates. And so if you do, it's like, oh wow, this has to be brilliant, and this has to be really good. And what you realize is, well, actually, like getting on a difficult golf course, I've been disappointed by more of those golf courses than driving up to a course like Painswick or Minchinhampton Old or Appleby, and like driving into the car park and there's 6 people there, 4 of them are staff members, and there's more sheep on the course than people who have played it that week. And it's like an absolutely brilliant golf experience, and it costs £20.
100%.
And so that's where I think for me, like golf, especially in England, is such a rich tapestry. Is that you have this really high end experience, and then you're like, well, as cool as that was, and as privileged as I am to have been in those places, from a pure golf perspective, like I would rather play the 3 courses I mentioned than the other 3 that I mentioned.
Yeah.
If I wanted to enjoy a really nice day out and enjoy a hot shower after the round and soft towels and a big locker and a nice clubhouse and brilliant food, and well, give me the first 3. Absolutely. So, but when it comes to pure golf, then there's more than just exclusivity. So that doesn't come into it in our rankings. Now, as far as the amount of panelists we have, we've got, I think in England, probably about 20, 25 guys that help us out in various parts of the country. And some of those guys are involved at a region level, a country level. And then some of those guys will kind of like step up to help with GB&I, and then even the world. But you have to have enough coverage or depth so that you know what you're looking at. And I think it sounds a bit like, it comes across as being a bit privileged or elitist. And I hate that. But if you've not seen like a world top 10, so like a Cypress Point, a Royal Melbourne West, a Shinnecock, a Pine Valley, a Muirfield, St. Andrews Old, if you've not seen how good golf course architecture can be and how good golf can be, it's really hard to know like that scale. Because you go to a golf course and you're like, this is amazing. This is like one of the best golf courses I've ever been to. And it might be. But like what's a 10 on your scale at the minute might become a 6 if you had exposure to a true 10. So, I mean, that's where I think like, guys like Tom Doak have done really well with the Doak scale. So sometimes when I'm sitting down and like looking at rankings, like the Doak scale is a brilliant way to do it, to try and get in your mind, like what kind of like Doak score would I give this? And he does it on two ways. So for example, like how far would I travel to play the golf course? So like a Doak 10, if you traveled to Australia just to play Royal Melbourne West, you had a 22-hour flight, you got off in Melbourne, you went and you played the golf course, and then you turned around and got back on a flight and came back home to London, would you still think that golf was so good that was totally worth it? And the answer is yes, it is. Like it is that good. Now, would I say that about a lot of the other courses in the Melbourne Sandbelt? Well, no. So if you're already there, would you drive another hour to go see that course and think it was worthwhile? Well, absolutely. So it's not a 10, but it's maybe an 8. And so the effort to travel to a golf course as opposed to how much you enjoy it gives you an idea of maybe which bucket it goes in or which score to give it. And then there's the architectural side of it. Rand Morissette is another individual he's a great mind when it comes to golf course architecture. And Rand Morissette runs a website called Golf Club Atlas. Probably come across it. But he has a list, and it's called the 147 Custodians, and it's basically a list of the purest golf courses in the world. It's like and he kind of has this formula, which I think is really, really good. That kind of helps me, like, again, sort things out into tiers or buckets. So like a golf course that you can walk is usually better than a golf course that you need a cart to play. A golf course that is like encourages the ground game is usually better than a golf course which you can't play the ground game or use the ground at. And there's like 10 or 12 or 15 of these, this is usually better than that. And it's not an absolute because there are exceptions to the rules. But it's a very good barometer of kind of in your own mind capturing what you think works well for you. So those are two things along with our guidance, that if I'm looking at a ranking and I'm trying to figure out like heads and tails. The other thing to keep in mind is that at some point though, like they all kind of start to merge into each other. So, and you get this in the world rankings, you get this in the region rankings, you get this in the country rankings and county rankings. Like Surrey is an incredibly deep golf county. And I think we have a top 50
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
So the top 5 courses are probably all world hundreds. The next 5 to 8 are probably like regional or Great Britain and Ireland top 100s. The next ones after that are probably like, you probably got 5 England top 100s. And then you kind of get down to like the 25 to 50. And you're like, well, is 39 really that much better than 38? And is 36 that much better than 35? And you're kind of like, well, who's right? And I think that's when you have to look at rankings and you just have to say, look, aren't we so lucky and fortunate to live in an area where we've got 25 courses that you could all legitimately say are that good? And instead of getting like, your knickers in a twist about, whether this one's 40 or 41, how lucky are we that we have the time, the opportunity, the circumstances to actually think about which golf course that we get to play today is better than the other one. Because the majority of the world, people are worried about how much food they have to drink and dodging bullets and missiles and all sorts of crazy stuff. And we're sitting here talking about a game. That's pretty awesome. Pretty lucky people.
It amazes me how difficult it is to get to play those courses in and around the Surrey belt. And yet some of the unbelievably stunning courses in Scotland that shape the game are £20-30 to local. In fact, I think Fort Rose and Rosemarkie is about 100 and something pounds to join for a junior. Not a great deal more for an adult, if I'm honest with you. The green fees are a little hefty, but the joining fees and the accessibility it seems to be very different to what it is down here to the exclusive.
Absolutely, and I mean that's the beautiful thing about Scotland. And I think we come back to that. I was raised in a place where the barrier to entry is money. So, my father was a farmer and a rancher. For the 80s and 90s, there was drought, so it's pretty hard to grow things when the rain doesn't come. And that doesn't necessarily bode well for family finances when you're a farmer. And then we had BSE, so we couldn't really sell our cattle. So yeah, it's difficult times. And if you wanted to join the nice country club, well, it didn't matter who you were or what you were. It mattered how much money you had. And I think when you get up to Scotland, like there is a lot more of that where it doesn't matter. You could be a taxi driver, a local plumber. You don't have to be an accountant or a lawyer. If you're blue collar, white, it doesn't matter because at the golf club, you're all the same. And accessibility is all there. It is a shame that seems to be changing with the amount of Americans that are going into Ireland and Scotland. It is changing, but at the end of the day, like in the modern world, these courses have to be run like businesses, and businesses run on supply and demand. And sometimes to create demand, you pump up your price. If Fort Rose and Rosemarkie all of a sudden started charging like £350, they would probably have more visitors next year because Americans would say, well, if they can charge that much, it must be great. And most Americans would go and probably say, what a cool experience.
Yeah, I found that when I popped by Royal Dornoch on our travels, and it was all Americans on the tee. And I'd said to them, this was in beginning of May, to the club shop, what's your green fees? Well, obviously they told me, and it was not cheap. And I said, when he, what's availability like? Said, it's difficult. We've already opened our book for next year.
Yeah.
And if people are prepared to pay, and you're going to charge that, I think the local residents get a discount. I don't know what it is, but it's not a great deal less. But these courses are built to be played, weren't they? And it just unfortunately, it seems that, as you just said, people are prepared to put their hands in their pockets and make it that exclusive. It's hard for the average guy to get on there or go.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think that's, if you're involved in the industry, Usually there's a way to get access to these clubs, whether that's through the back door, through a black book, or through connections, or members, or your best mates know members, or whatever it might be. But for an individual that has no other option but to go into the pro shop or into the secretary's office or pick up the phone and ring, those rack rates can be pretty intimidating unless you've got the cash. I think the good thing that I really love about the rankings, though, is that, of course, everybody likes to tick boxes and see the quote unquote best, but there is still like a tremendous amount of great golf that's out there that lies just below the really top tier stuff that actually isn't that much quote unquote inferior. The difference between the really, really top tier stuff in, like, say, World Top 100 in Scotland and then the like GB and I stuff. I mean, it'd be interesting if I just take a quick look. I think currently on the world rankings, you've got, so in the world rankings, the top 13 courses are in the world top 100. So 13 Scottish courses. Then from 14 through to 28, you've got those courses. So another 14 that go into the GB and I. And then right below that, you've got courses like Mercer, Panmure, London, Murray, Blairgowrie, Dunbar, Boat of Garton. Like a lot of those courses that are just on that like shoulder of it, you could probably put them into GB and I, and no one would be able to argue with you. They would try, but who's right? And actually, most of those could be had for like a pittance. So the really top tier stuff that everybody's looking to tick off their list, yes, like it's going to cost you a pretty penny. But that's the other thing too. Like, this is something we've just done. We've done a load of content on it recently. Like, what are the most the lowest cost or the value rankings for the World Top 100? You could play Muirfield in the winter on a Tuesday or Thursday for 150 quid.
Right.
Now, you pay 30 quid for lunch, so 180 for like one of the best lunches that you'll ever have. And you get to play Muirfield. Like, where else could you go? You spend a day at one of the most elite golf clubs in the world, play one of the 10th best golf course in the world. Absolutely stunning golf course. Second best in Scotland for 150 quid. Now, you might say, well, it's winter time, and I don't think they have mats at Muirfield in the winter. But it might be a little bit cooler. They might have, maybe there's not a massive amount of contrast because the rough's been all taken down. But you still get to play golf on one of the greatest golf courses to ever been built and exist at one of the most elite private golf clubs in the world. And when we say elite private golf, it's in the same league as the Augustus, the Cypress Points, the National Golf Links, the Shinnecocks of the world. Like, it's an elite private members club.
Right.
Yeah.
And 2 days a week, they open their doors for visitors to come. And for 150 quid, you can go. Now, that is still a lot of money for a lot of people. That might be a day's worth of work or 2 days worth of work for some people. That's a lot of money. I get it. But if you want that type of experience, it's still accessible. If you're willing, and it might not be an everyday thing, it might not be an every year thing, but if you wanted to save your pennies, you could probably get there if you really were determined to. And it wouldn't be a once in a lifetime thing. You could probably do it every couple of years if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I'm starting to think how are we going to get up there? Yeah. We've mentioned quite a few good golf courses so far. Two, I would love to get your thoughts on why they are so good. One, I think is one of your favourites, which is Royal Melbourne. But before we get to that, Royal County Down, it's considered one of the best golf courses in the world. Why is that?
I think heritage has a lot to do with it. With Old Tom. I think Irish links have gotten a lot of great press in recent years. I don't think Royal County Down, Royal Dornoch, Lachinch, Ballybunion, you go back 30, 40 years, Cruden Bay, no one was talking about these golf courses. And now all of a sudden they're like some of the best in the world. So either like everybody missed it for a few hundred years or like something's happened. So I would say that like they're brilliant golf courses. Royal County Down probably strikes the most debate because it's an extremely difficult golf course, especially in the dunes on the front, say 12, 14 holes. And then it has a very lackluster finish. So once you get to the far end of the course on the top ground, there's a 4, 3, and then kind of the home stretch, a straight run home. Those golf holes just don't even compare to the rest of the holes. So it probably comes in for like some unfair criticism just because it's not fireworks for 18 holes. And the truth is, if it was like, if the back nine was as good as the front nine, like you'd probably walk after 12 or 14 holes and just be like, I can't handle this. Like it's too much. And Tom Simpson wrote about that, a famous golf course architect, talking about the mental side of the game, like the cerebral side of golf, where you need to have like compression and release. You need to go through like the crucible and then come out the other side, and you need to do it multiple times in a round. And I think part of why Royal County Down is so good is actually a lot of the things that we say don't matter. And this might come across, it's got history. So it's got Old Tom Moore's. It's in a beautiful location. You're like, you're seaside, but you've also got the mountains. You've got like this majestic, like crazy hotel that just like kind of anchors the site and the setting. It's a little like Banff Springs in Canada, or Jasper Park Lodge, or there's a handful of these courses in the world. For me, I think what makes Royal County Down so good is it's almost like a heathland links. There's so much heather on that golf course. So the tapestry is just absolutely, if there was no golf course there and you just went for a walk, you could like walk over that land and you could spend 4 to 6 hours out there and never get sick of it. Now imagine that now you drape one of the world's best golf courses on top of land like that. And it's like, well, that's Royal County Down. I think there is as well, when it comes to links golf courses, like the world's best will eat them up if the wind doesn't blow. And if you hit it relatively straight, like, and you get some decent bounces, you can probably go around in a decent score. But I always find that when you go to a golf course like Royal County Down and it's difficult, by the time you finish, you feel like you've accomplished something. And I think I don't know if we get that much in life anymore. Like for most of my days, if I'm not playing golf, I'm sat at the desk like I am now. And I have coffee and a tea and I can get a cold drink and I can sit here on a comfortable chair. At the end of the day, I've got to go to the gym or go for a walk or walk the dog or go, because I haven't done anything. I've done a lot, but I haven't done anything. And I think sometimes when you get into that type of an environment, it does fire up in us, like kind of what makes us human is that we want to fight, we want to overcome, we want to battle. And when you play a course like Royal County Down, I think those raw elements of what makes us human it's teased out of you, is that it feels hard and it feels like you're in a fight and you've got to work for it. I mean, the views coming up over the hill and then you see the fairways. I think another thing that a lot of what makes Royal County Down really good too is the fact that there is blindness. And that might be a bit controversial, but the thing with blindness is that it creates a lot of suspense.
Yeah.
So like you hit a tee shot and it's like, okay, I went right over the marker pole, but it was kind of going left to right and the wind is pushing it right to left. And like, where's it going to be? And for 150 yards, you're thinking like, and so there's like, again, you come back, there's this emotive thing. And, you come up over that precipice and you've got like the Mourne Mountains and you've got the hotel and you've got this beautiful tapestry and you've got this like block cut fairway and you've got heather and and it's all there in full bloom. And then you look down and you're like, but where's my ball? And now you have this elation of like probably one of the most beautiful like scenes in golf. And yeah, this incredible high of just natural beauty, which seems to like really spark in us something amazing. As humans, we appreciate it. And then you're like, oh, but then you get hit in the heart by like, oh, where'd my ball go? Or vice versa. You hit a bad shot and you find it in the middle of the fairway. It's like, I wasn't expecting. And so I think Royal County Down does a really good job of like the mental side of the game. Because it's not all in front of you, because there is a lot of like, it's tough. And then it's like, again, what we would term as compression and release, or like hard and soft. And there's a cadence to the round where you're kind of given a little bit, but then it asks a little bit back for you. And there's almost like this tug of war with the golf course, with yourself, with the architect, with the ground, with the elements, with the weather. And I think the best golf courses do that and do that very well. And I think Royal County Down is a really good example. Now, I personally love Royal County Down. There are some people that are of the mind that it's probably a little bit inflated because they've got so many American visitors that were really high on it. It like shot to the top of the rankings, and it's there because a lot of the panels keep it there. But I think it is an outstanding golf course. So yeah, Royal County Down, special place. Hopefully I didn't, I don't know if that was a good answer or not, but
That's perfect. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you touched on it gets the mental, but it sounds to me, just listening to you, it's deeper than that. It gets the emotional aspect of you, all the senses
Yeah.
and the heart involved.
Absolutely. And I think that's what golf is and can be,
Yeah.
and should be
Yeah.
in its like rawest form. And I think that's why, again, when going back to like what makes links golf so good, is it
Absolutely.
when you've played links golf, it's not been fair. It's not been easy. There has been a struggle. It feels like you've accomplished something. And actually, for a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people have that. We don't get that reward as much as we should in modern life. You know, and I the reason why I say that is like when I was a kid and my father said, right, you've got to go and shovel the barn out. You know, and there was like a horse stall that all the hay needed to be brought out. And well, guess what? Like an hour later, everything was cleaned out and swept. And I could stand back and I could say, that was like literally full of it. And I've cleaned it all out and swept it up and it's all ready to go. And there's new hay in there and all of it. But instant satisfaction. You worked hard, you accomplished something, you did something, you had blisters, but you did something and you could look at it and there was instant gratification. Where today I worked all morning, put in 6-7 hours, was at the desk from say 5:30 till 12:30. And what have I done? Well, I've maybe got 4 or 5 spreadsheets that are saved in a folder on my desktop. And whilst that is good and while I've accomplished something, like I still can walk away and be like, well, what did I actually do? And I think the best golf courses make you feel like you've done something special. You've overcome something.
Yeah, good answer. Very good answer.
Yeah.
We've been asking, we were at the BMW this week, which is obviously being hosted on one of the very highly ranked courses, Wentworth West. But we were asking some of the players what their most memorable British Open experience has been.
Yeah.
We've got some good answers. What's your favourite British Open course, Jasper?
So yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I would have to. So I'm a massive fan of the old course. Like, and that's I owe the old course a lot. So I did some historical research on the old course. The research that I did was then sanctioned or backed or endorsed by St. Andrews Links Trust.
Interesting.
And yeah, like I say, I owe the old course a lot. And I think as far as the venue goes, the fact that it still stands up to like the world's best, even though it's hundreds and hundreds of years old, you can play it backwards and forwards and it's still a great golf course. The fact that it used to be like 20 holes, now it's 18 and it still works. Like there's no other golf course in the world that you could have done what you did to the old course and it's still one of the best. And I think even the weak holes at the old course are still like some of the strongest golf holes in the world. Like everybody gets excited about 14 long. So the big par 5, 17 over the hotel, and then 11 Eden as a par 3. So you've probably got the best par 3, par 4, par 5, as far as like natural links golf in the world on that course, on the back 9. But actually, if you look at the course as a whole, like every single golf hole on that golf course has something amazing on it, and it works really, really well. And then you could do it backwards and it still works as good. The highs aren't as high, but maybe the lows aren't as low. It's absolutely mad. So I would have to say that's not from a spectator point of view. From like just a golf course point of view, it has to be the old course. And then Muirfield has to be next. Muirfield is just, it's a golf course that doesn't really fall into the typical, like what most people would think is links. Like it's most of the links land at Muirfield is down like on the bottom bit by the Firth. And they're kind of playing on this top flat bit. So you don't have wild dunes. You don't have, but I think there's no better golf course in the world when it comes to bunkering and shaping and contouring than Muirfield. You can hit a perfect shot within 20 yards of a bunker that you don't think is in play, and you walk up to it, and the contours have like taken your ball and put it into like a terrible, terrible spot in a bunker. And the fact that you have to think in like 3 dimensions on that golf course, you can't just hit the shot you think it needs, because you have to be thinking, well, what is this going to do once it hits the ground? There's very few golf courses that make you think about golf after it's hit the ground, and Muirfield is one of those places. And it's just a beautiful place. Yeah. So it'd have to be the old course in Muirfield, the two top. But I mean, there's lots to. If you think about, I would say third is probably Prestwick. Yeah. Again, it hasn't hosted an Open for
decades.
Yeah, just like, and it never will. It just won't. It's not there. But I think Prestwick is probably be my third. The history, the clubhouse, like just the whole experience of Prestwick is absolutely phenomenal. And I've had the privilege to play the original 12-hole layout and then the proper course, obviously. It's an amazing place. There's some absolutely astonishing golf holes out there. Again, maybe not a complete set of 18 that are all like world class, but there's something that, again, that tugs at your heartstrings when you look at a place like Prestwick. It just inspires you. In fact, probably if I was to say like red letter day, I was coming back from Scotland with my wife, and there was storms all day driving down from the east coast of Scotland. We spent 6 weeks in the Inner and Outer Hebrides, just going to random islands and golf courses all over the place. In 2021, I think it was. And we're driving back down, and I phoned the secretary up at Prestwick. And I said, look, I'm coming down. Is there any way that you've got any? And he's like, oh, there's been storms all day, but you never know. No one's here. You can come out and see. So that's great. So I stop in, not expecting to play. And like the heavens just parted. And it was the most beautiful, serene, golden light just like over this land. And my wife's not a particularly keen golfer. She does golf, and she does it better than she thinks she does. But she was like, can I just come and walk with you, because it's so gorgeous? And it was honestly, it was my wife and myself, and we were on this golf course. We were the only 2 people out there, and it was the most amazing experience I've had on a golf course in my life. Yeah. So whether would he go as far as saying it's a religious or a spiritual experience, I don't know, but it's probably as close as I got to it on a golf course. So.
I think it would be. I think when you're out in, this landscape and nature, it's, I went to have a chat with them there on the way back. We did the NC 500, my wife and I, and we were stopping at various courses. We managed to sort of, on the way back, head down to Royal Troon and popped over to Prestwick as well. And I was kind of taken aback by the whole layout. It's something that, coming from Sussex, never experienced. But you've got Rye along the road, Royal St George's, but those courses up there, something else. Even if you're not playing, just go for a walk along the coast and just look at the terrain. Yeah,
no, it's unbelievable. But you mentioned some good ones. I mean, Rye, Sandwich, Deal, Princes. I mean, they're all great golf courses. I think one of the unheralded gems in that part of the world, though, is North Foreland Short Course. Okay. As well worth a go. Honestly, you take a wedge and a putter around there, and there's 18 Tom Simpson greens that are sat on like a few acres, just little pitch and putt type stuff. But it's probably the funnest golf you'll play in that entire area. So yeah, North Foreland Short Course. Anyways,
speaking of architecture, we're due to have a chat with an architectural firm in the next few weeks. Yeah. And they have been working heavily with Addington down here. This woods, to
CDP,
CDP, that's it. Talking to Ed Cartwright, and they've been trying to reinstate the cult designs and the other designers, just bringing it back. Beautiful job they're doing down there. And of course, Ryan's put some amazing pictures up on his profile on Instagram as well. That's what we like. We like holding on to true traditions, really, and looking at these courses as they were intended originally, so they're not getting lost, because unfortunately golf is still expensive, and some of these courses are being eaten up over the years. You've probably seen a few disappear yourself. Perhaps the truest forms, but still, old courses are still wonderful traditional courses, and it's a shame to see some of them go.
And that's the thing. I think the Addington's a really good example. J.F. Abercrombie, original design. Him and Colt were involved in 1913, which was kind of like the peak year for Colt.
Yeah.
He did Blackmore, St. George's Hill, and then a little place called Pine Valley. So yeah, he did all right in 1913. Did Colt. So yeah, the Addington is a special place. I've known Ryan for a good number of years, and you could see the bones of the Addington. You could see it was special, and as they've done the work there, once they get the routing sorted out and they get the clubhouse moved, and yeah, the first like 2, 3, and 4 become the last swing. With all the other ones that they've got, like all the changes that they've done, the extension to 7, the left side of 8 being opened up. I mean, it's an incredible piece of land. You've got Purdue now, which allows like an alternative routing of holes. Of course, 12 is always interesting. Yeah, it's an incredible piece of land, and severe piece of land, but only a genius could get that much out of it, and they did. Colt and Abercrombie were a special group. In fact, interesting to note, like Alistair Mackenzie said that Abercrombie was the doyen of golf course architects. Very high praise from someone who most people would consider to be the greatest in the world. So yeah, Addington's a special place.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get better.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping to get shown around.
Yeah, I think we're going to pop up there at some point, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, we could go on and on and on, and perhaps as time goes by, we'll have an opportunity to speak again. But thank you so much for giving us some of your time, Jasper. We've enjoyed the chat, and no doubt we'll continue to see how the brand and the business continues to grow and help. I don't like using the word advertise, promote beautiful golf around the world at different places.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Sorry, I maybe got a bit carried away there and waxed lyrical and got a little bit emotive or introspective. But anyways, no, I appreciate the time, and it's always nice to talk about golf. So yeah, we'll keep on trying our best, and thanks for having me.